Start, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the vision physiology. Okay, today we are going to discuss the physiology of vision. Today learning objectives for this session are the functional anatomy of the eye, the physiology of the image formation, and the refractive errors. As you are know in your earlier classes in the 11th and 12th standard, you have discussed, the different parts of the eye. What is the importance of the vision? The animals have evolved a variety of mechanisms to transduce the light and to detect the light. The brain visualizes this information to help them to locate the food, to avoid become a prey, and to find the mate, and to navigate, and generally recognizes the distant objects. Vision. The vertebrate has the two major components. One is the optical part, another one is the neural part. The optical part will focus to form the image on the neural part. The neural part will convert the image into neural coding. The eyeball, the shape of the eyeball is a cystic and it is a oblong spheroid. It is not the true sphere because of the less vertical diameter compared to the horizontal diameter. It has different two poles. One is the north pole and the south pole. The center point on the maximal convexity of the anterior and the posterior curvatures are called as the anterior pole and the posterior pole respectively. The equator lies in the midplane between the two poles. Okay, we'll look at the dimensions of the adult eye. The anteroposterior diameter of the adult eye is 24 millimeters. The horizontal diameter is 23.5. The vertical diameter is the 23 millimeters. The circumference is 75 millimeters. The volume is 6.5 millimeters, and weight of the eye is the 7 grams. It is the average values. And when you look at the infant, the small, it has the eye. At birth, it is 16.4 anteroposterior diameter. The horizontal diameter is also 16.4, and the vertical diameter is 16 millimeters. This is the vertical diameter. This is the anterior pole, and this is the posterior pole. This is the equator of the eye. Suppose if you look at the coats of the eye, it has three coats. Outermost is the fibrous coat, and the middle is the vascular coat, and innermost is the neural coat. The fibrous coat, suppose if you see, this is the fibrous coat. The anterior 1/6 will be found by the clear cornea. It is like a watch glass, and the posterior is the white layer. It is the sclera. It protects the intraocular contents. The cornea set into sclera like a watch glass. The junction of the cornea and the sclera is called as the limbus. The conjunctiva is also firmly attached at the limbus. The vascular coat is also called as the uveal tissue. It supplies the nutrition to the various structures of the eyeball. It consists of three parts from anterior to the posterior: the iris, ciliary body, and the choroid. This is the iris, ciliary body, and the choroid in continuation posteriorly. The next is the third coat is the inner coat is the nervous coat. It is the retina. It projects the visual information from the eye to the visual cortex through the visual pathway. This is the structure. We have discussed the cornea, the anterior chamber. This is the posterior chamber. This is suspensory ligament. This is the ciliary body. This is the choroid and retina, choroid, and the sclera. Again, the eye is divided into different segments and two chambers. Depending on that, even ophthalmologists are also divided the anterior segment and surgeons and the posterior segment surgeons. Basing on this, the anterior segment includes the crystalline lines, and it is suspended by the suspensory ligament, and the structures anterior to the crystalline lines like iris, cornea, the aqueous humor filled chambers like the anterior chamber or the posterior chamber forms the anterior segment. This is the posterior chamber and anterior chamber. This is the posterior segment. The anterior chamber, it is bounded anteriorly back by the cornea, posteriorly with the anterior surface of the iris and the ciliary body. The depth of the anterior chamber is 2.5 millimeters at the center. In the adult, it is depth is more in the myopic compared to the hypermetropes. It contains 0.25 ml of the aqueous humor, 1/4 ml of aqueous humors. It communicates with the posterior chamber through the aperture called as the aperture in the iris called as the pupil. The posterior chamber, it is a triangular space, contains the 1/4 of the anterior chamber containing 1/4 of the 0.25, approximately 0.6 ml of the aqueous humor. It is bounded anteriorly by the posterior surface of iris and partly by the ciliary body and the crystalline lines and the zonules, laterally by the ciliary body. This is the anterior chamber, this is the posterior chamber, anteriorly by the iris and posteriorly by the lens and the zonules and the ciliary body laterally. Okay. The segments of the chamber, the other segment is the posterior segment. It includes the structures posterior to the lens, the vitreous humor and the retina, choroid and the optic disc. And compared to the aqueous humor, the vitreous humor is a jelly-like substance that fills the posterior 4/5 of the cavity of the eyeball. The volume of the vitreous humor is 4 ml, and the weight of the vitreous is 4 grams in weight. The eye is suspended by the facial sheaths and the extraocular muscles in the quadrilateral pyramid, like a bony structure called as the orbit. It is protected anteriorly by 2 lids, shutters like lids. The anterior part of the sclera and the posterior surface of the lids are lined by the conjunctiva, mucous membrane. The appendages of the eye for smooth functioning of the cornea and the conjunctiva, and to keep it moist by the tears secreted by the lacrimal glands and the axillary lacrimal glands and the small glands, and these structures will maintain the moisture of the cornea and conjunctiva. The structures, eyelids, eyebrows, conjunctiva, lacrimal apparatus are collectively called as the appendages of the eye. Then we are going to look at each structure individually. The cornea is a transparent, avascular, watch glass-like structure with a smooth, shining surface. The average diameter of the cornea is 11 to 12 mm, and its thickness, it is centrally thin compared to the periphery. As the thickness will increase to the periphery, the central thickness is 52 mm, or also it is 520 microns. The periphery, it is 670 microns or 0.67 millimeters in the thickness. The cornea forms the main refracting medium. It is around it is around 40 diopters and a reduced eye. The lens forms the 19 diopters in the reduced ray. The refracting power, it is a transparent watch-like glass structure, anterior surface bathed in the tears, and it gets its oxygen and nutrition from the atmosphere and the nutrition from the aqueous humor and the tear film, where it keeps the cornea wet. The maintenance of the corneal transparency is it is a very prerequisite for the refractive media for the focusing of any object. Suppose if you have any injury to this cornea because of the trauma, it may lead to formation of the opacities, or suppose if you have injury, not only opacity, it can lead to the edema of the cornea whenever you have the toxic any substances fall in the, or even sometimes the photokeratitis when we have with exposed to the excessive sunlight also can lead to the photokeratitis. What are the factors that are responsible for the corneal transparency? The first and foremost is the avascularity of the cornea. Because of this, we are able to do the transplantation of the successfully the cornea. The absence of the pigment in the cornea, that is another factor which will maintain the transparency. And the peculiarity of arrangement of the stromal lamella also is the one thing, that is another thing, it plays an important role in the maintaining the transparency of the cornea. And relative dehydration of the stroma, it is done by the endothelial pump that maintains the almost even the epithelial also plays an epithelium, and the endothelium of the cornea plays an important role in maintaining the dehydration of the stroma by dehydrating by active mechanism and the epithelium, and it don't allow the permeability of the anything from the epithelial surface because of tight junctions. Earlier, the cornea used to describe when I was a student and even an ophthalmologist is only 5 layers. In 2013, duo layer is invented. It is also called as a pre-Descemet's membrane. Whenever they are doing the procedure, corneal grafting procedures, they have discovered this one. This layer is a new invention in 2013. It is invented by the Harminder Singh Dua and et al. That is why it is named as a Dua layer. It is discovered in 2013. The cornea from outer to inner, the epithelium, then it is under epithelium, then the Bowman's membrane, then the stroma, then the Dua layer, and the Descemet's membrane, and the endothelium. This endothelium and the epithelium plays an important maintain the turgidance of the and dehydration of the cornea and maintain the clarity of the cornea. This is the cornea and the lens. The histopathology slides. This if you look at, this is the stratified superficial cells, and this is the then the Bowman's stroma and Descemet's membrane, and the lens capsule, then the anteriorly the epithelium. The corneal dual layer. Suppose if you see it in the section, this is the layer. This is a thin acellular layer measuring about 10.5 microns. It is composing of 5 to 8 lamella predominantly. Type 1 collagen bundles arranged in a transverse longitudinal direction. It can it is impermeable to the water, and even it resists the pressure of 2 Daltons also. It is very resistant. Then the outer layer, the sclera is a strong opaque fibrous layer. It is a fiber. It is a relatively avascular structure, and it is a 1 mm thickness. It is pierced by the nerves and the vessels entering to the eyeball. The next one is the middle layer. It is a vascular layer. It is the iris from anteriorly. The iris is colored. The eye of the individual it is determined by the pigmentation present in the European. You have the cat eye, this thing, and it is having a circular diaphragm with having a central aperture of 3 to 4 millimeters size. It is known as the pupil. The pupil regulates the light entering. It plays an important role in prevention of the spherical and the chromatic aberrations, which we will discuss in the later in the next classes. The pupil constricts and dilates by contraction of the sphincter pupillae causes the constriction, and dilator pupillae causes the dilatation of the pupil. The sphincter pupillae is supplied by the parasympathetic, and the dilator pupillae is supplied by the sympathetic nerves. They plays an important role in amount of light entering into the eye, and they play an important role in the prevention of the spherical and the chromatic aberrations. The next structure in the vascular coat is the ciliary body. Ciliary body is the middle part of the visual tract. In cut section is a triangular shape. The base forward. Anteriorly, it is attached with the iris attached to the middle of the base of the ciliary body. Posteriorly, ciliary body continues as a choroid. This is the iris. This is the ciliary body. Again, the ciliary body is divided into 2 parts: the pars plicata and the pars plana. It has a ciliary process from which the aqueous is secreted. These are the zonules attached here. This is a canal of Clem's from where the aqueous is drained to the aqueous veins through this. After crossing the trabecular meshwork, it enters the canal of Clem. This is the trabecular meshwork. This is the canal from where the aqueous gets drained. Then we look at the ciliary body. Ciliary body contains a non-stratified muscle called as ciliary muscle, which is supplied by the parasympathetic fibers, take part in the process of accommodation. The ciliary body is functions in accommodation, and another one is it plays an important role in production of the aqueous humor. There are 7 to 8 finger-like projections from the ciliary body. These ciliary processes are the site of aqueous production. The water fluid maintains the intraocular pressure of the eyeball. Or in the intraocular fluid, there are two types of fluids. One is the vitreous humor, another one is the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is present in the anterior segment, the vitreous humor present in the posterior segment. The aqueous humor present in both the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber. It is secreted in at the ciliary process and gets drained through the pupil. It enters the anterior chamber. It maintains the sufficient pressure, and the eyeball keeps distended. The aqueous humor is normally a transparent fluid, colorless, and it is a low refractive index medium formed continuously from the plasma by the ciliary epithelial cells. The aqueous humor is continuously formed and reabsorbed, and it maintains the balance of the intraocular pressure of the eyeball. The balance between the formation and the reabsorption regulates the total volume and the pressure of the eyeball. The aqueous humor is formed normally 2 to 3 microliters per each minute. It forms at a rate of 2 to 3 microliters per each minute. The mechanism of formation of the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor is formed by the 3 mechanisms, but primarily the 95% is by the active secretion only. The remaining major 5% includes the ultrafiltration, and the diffusion also plays an important role in the mechanism of formation of the aqueous humor. The 3 mechanisms are involved: ultrafiltration, diffusion, and the secretion. The aqueous humor is almost by the active secretion of the ciliary epithelium. The secretion begins with first with the active transport of the sodium ions between the epithelial cells. The sodium ions will, along with creates the electro gradient, and to maintain it pulls both the chloride and the bicarbonate ions along with them to maintain the electron neutrality. All these ions together causes the osmosis of the water from the blood capillaries lying in the intercellular, resulting in the solution was the spaces of the ciliary process into the anterior chamber of the eye. First, it forms and reaches the anterior chamber before entering into the anterior chamber. After forming, it first flows into the pupil and then into the anterior chamber of the eye. The fluid flows anterior to the lens into the angle of the eye between the cornea and the iris. Then the meshwork of the trabecular meshwork will be present, and from there it will filter, empties into the canal of Schlemm's canal, and it empties into the extraocular vein. And from there it goes into the episcleral veins. It has a 2 flow. One is a conventional flow, another one is a non-conventional. The conventional is the 75%, and the non-conventional is the only 15%. It is the uveous scleral outflow is a non-conventional. The conventional flow is the trabecular flow. Suppose if you look at, this is the trabecular flow. From where it goes into the trabecular meshwork. From there it goes into the canal of Schlemm's canal, and then the aqueous veins, and then goes into the episcleral veins. The non-conventional flow, after entering the anterior chamber, it through uveous scleral outflow. From where it will goes to the different space. The canal of Schlemm's canal, it is a thin-walled vein that extended circumferentially all around the eye. It is a endothelial membrane of the Schlemm's canal is permeable to the large protein molecules and even particulate matters up to a size of the RBC. Whenever you have a trauma where you see when you do the gonioscopy, where sometimes you may find the blood in the Schlemm's canal, it means there is a trauma to the angle of the chamber where you see the blood in the Schlemm's canal also. The canal of Schlemm, it is a venous vessel, but it contains only aqueous humor instead of the blood. The small veins drains the aqueous humor from canal to the large veins of the episcleral veins. The small veins is also called as the aqueous veins. So the aqueous humor enters the trabecular meshwork into the Schlemm's canal or aqueous veins is a conventional flow, or through the ciliary muscle, other downstream to the unconventional flow. It is also called as the ovioscleral outflow. The conventional flow, this is the conventional flow from the trabecular meshwork, Schlemm's and the aqueous veins into the episclera. The conventional flow is contribute for the 75%, and the unconventional flow pathways contribute to the 25%. This is the conventional flow, it is going, and unconventional flow, it goes to the ovioscleral outflow. The serial process, the aqueous humor, and through propial to anterior chamber, the trabecular meshwork, the the collector channels and episcleral veins is the 75%. The ciliary body, the suprasporoidal space, it is the space between the choroid and the sclera. It is a space, a potential space. Sometimes even in trauma, you will see the blood also in the suprachoroidal hemorrhage, where you will see the even the blood collected. The venous circulation of the ciliary body and the orbit, from which the unconventional 25% will. The aqueous humor production, and this is a very important question for your examination. It is asked so many times in the examination. How will you measure the intraocular pressure? It is the most commonly used method is the olden days, the Chiard tonometer. It is an indentation tonometer. It is the intraocular pressure is measured with the Chiard tonometer. The Chiard tonometer is used to measure intraocular pressure by measuring the depth produced by the surface of the cornea when you apply a load. Okay, it will be converted with the chart where you can read. The most nowadays is the most commonly used in all clinics in ophthalmology is the Goldman's tonometer. It is the appellation tonometer. The IOP of normal, the average is the 15 millimeters of Hg. It can range from the 12 to 20 mm of Hg. It is determined by the resistance to the outflow of the aqueous. It is measured with the help of an instrument called as a tonometer. For doing the tonometry, first you need to anesthetize the cornea, and the footplate of the tonometer is placed on the cornea, and the small force is applied. The central plunger will push the cornea slightly inwards. The amount of displacement recorded on the scale of the tonometer is calibrated in the terms of the intraocular pressure with the reading. Okay. Then what is glaucoma? What is the glaucoma? Is a triad condition. It is one of the major causes. First and foremost is the cause of the blindness is the cataract, then followed by the glaucoma. The third most common is the refractive errors. The glaucoma is the second cause of blindness in the worldwide. The glaucoma is a triad condition where it includes the rise in the intraocular pressure associated with the visual field defects and the optic disc cupping. The unfortunate thing, we have the condition called as normotensive glaucoma, where you have the normal intraocular pressure, but there will be disc changes and the field defects in the normotensive glaucoma. This is a disease when the intraocular will become pathological, when even if you raise for the few minutes also can cause optic atrophy. The pressure of above 25 to 30 can cause the maintenance. There is a condition called as ocular hypertension, where the intraocular pressure is more than 25, but they don't have any visual defects or the optic disc cupping. But okay, this is a normal fundus photograph where you have the optic disc. This is a glaucomatous cupping where there is a cup ratio has increased. Suppose if you look at this is the optic nerve cupping, this is the optic cup, that is the cup, this is the disc measuring. Whenever you have an increase in the this optic disc cup ratio, suppose as the cup of the disc is increasing because of the damage of the nerve fibers, where it leads to the even some we have the physiological cup that is most commonly seen whenever you see in the high myopes, where you have the even the cup disc ratio is high, but the neuroretinal rim, that is that neuroretinal rim is healthy in these patients. Okay. The next layer is the choroid, the continuation of the vascular layer, where the choroid is a dark brown, highly vascular layer situated between the sclera and the retina. It supplies the nutrition to the outer layers of the retinal pigment epithelium. These layers supplies the retina. The next layer is the most important layer of the eye is the retina. It is the innermost tunica of the eye. It is a thin, delicate, transparent membrane. It is a highly developed tissue of the eye. It is concerned with the visual function and decoding from the image of the optical image into the retinal neural coding. The retina contains 10 layers. Suppose if you divide into broad strata, it contains 3 strata cells with the synapse. The visual cells lying externally, it includes the cones and the rods. The layer of bipolar cells, it is called the intermediate cells. It forms the synapses, and the layer of the ganglion cells, they lie internally. These are axons of these ganglion cell layers form the optic nerve, and it runs to the central nervous system. The 10 layers of the retina, this is from outer to inner. The outer, the first and foremost is the pigmented layer, then the photoreceptor layer, then the external limiting membrane, the outer nuclear layer, the nuclei of the rods and cone forms the outer nuclear layer, then the outer flexiform layer, it is a synapses between the horizontal layer, amygdala layer, forms the outer flexiform layer. Then the inner nuclear layer, it is the inner nuclear layer is formed by the nuclei of the bipolar cell. Then the inner flexiform layer, it is a synapses between the ganglion cell and the bipolar cells, and then the ganglion layer, it is formed by the ganglion cells, and the optic nerve layer, it is formed by the axons of the ganglia, and then the innermost is the inner limiting membrane. This is the structure of the layer. It is in the reverse way: the pigment epithelium, outer limiting membrane, and the outer nuclear layer, outer flexiform, and inner nuclear layer, inner flexiform layer, and ganglion cell layer, nerve fiber layers, and inner limiting membrane. This is another pictorial representation of the light entering from the retina to the backward of the retina. The layers of the retina, just we discussed, and we'll go in detail. The pigment layer epithelium, then the second layer is the from outer to the inner side, the layer of the rods and cones projecting into the pigment epithelium, the outer limiting membrane, and the outer nuclear layer containing the cell bodies of the rods and cones, and the outer flexiform layer, and the inner nuclear layer, inner flexiform layer, and the ganglionic layer, and the layer of the optic nerve fibers, and the inner limiting membrane. The outer pigment epithelium, the layer contains a cuboidal outer layer, and the layer of the rods and cones contains the cells of the rods and cones. The external limiting membrane, it separates the inner portion of the photoreceptors from their cell nucleus. It separates the nucleus of the photoreceptors from and the outer nuclear cell bodies, it contains the nuclei of the rods and the cones. The outer flexiform layers, ending of the rod spherules of the one pedicles synapse with the dendrites of the bipolar cells. The dendrites of the bipolar cells, it forms the outer flexiform layer. The inner nuclear layer, it contains the nuclei and cell bodies of the amacrine cells and the amacrine cells and the bipolar cells and the horizontal cells. The inner flexiform layer contains the synapse between the bipolar cells and the dendrites of the ganglion and the amacrine cells. This is the ganglion cell. The ganglion cell layer contains the nuclei of the ganglion cell and the axons of the optic nerve that message from the amacrine cells. The 9th layer is the neurofiber layer. It contains the axons of the ganglion cell layer. The 10th is the inner limiting membrane. It is secreted by elaborated by the Muller cells. Suppose if you look at the retina, the light passes through the ganglion cells and then through the flexiform and the nuclear layer before it finally reaches the layer of rods and cones located all the way outer edge of the retina. Because of the several hundred microns, the visual acuity it is decreased by this passes of the through this non-homogeneous layers. But however, because of the central foveal region where some of the layers, inner layers, like nerve fiber layers and the middle layers are missing and pulled, and to improve the visual acuity in the foveal region. The macula or the macula lutea, it is anatomically the diameter of the macula is a 5 mm. It is much larger, but the clinical macula corresponds to the fovea. The fovea is the central portion of the macula. It is measuring out the 1.5 millimeters. The foveal avascular zone is 0.5 to 0.6 mm in the center of the fovea. The fovea is the smaller, the center of the fovea. It is a somewhat smaller than the compared to the avascular zone. The umbo is the center of the foveola. It measuring about the 0.15 millimeters. The fovea contains the parafovea contains the 1.5 mm. Then the next is the corresponds to clinical macula. It is surrounded by 0.5 millimeters parafoveal region, and it is surrounded by the 1.5 millimeters perifoveal zone. Totally it includes the macula, total anatomical membrane. The clinical macula is corresponds to the fovea. It is the center part of the macula where you have the highest visual acuity. Suppose if you look at the fovea centralis, this is the, suppose if you see this, there are so many layers are missing when you pulled out because of the, so that the light can easily enters into the fovea. The fovea lies slightly below and one side to the optic disc. It is found in the center of the shallow depression of the pit of the macula lutea. The fovea is the minute area in the center of the retina, occupying the total area little more than the 1 square millimeter. It is especially capable of, it is responsible for the visual acuity of the eye. This is the fovea, this is the macular region. Suppose if you look at the fovea, the central, the foveola, it is only 0.3 millimeters in diameter. It is composed almost entirely the cones. These cones are special structure that gives a clear detailed image. The foveal cones are especially long and has a slender bodies in the foveal region. The peripheral cones have a fat bodies compared to the foveal zone. The fovea is also have the blood vessels, ganglion cell layers, and the inner nuclear cell arranged in a manner such that it won't impede the light rays reaches the this slender cones, which is the area which is more important for the visual acuity of the. Suppose if you look at this micrograph the macula, so there are so many layers are missing in the this foveal zones. This is the thickness. Suppose we will look at this region. This is the, yeah, there is a decrease. The only cones present at the fovea which have the individual connection with the bipolar and the ganglion cell layers. Hence, the fovea gives the most sensitive and the visual acuity region. This is the foveal region. Suppose this is the total macula area. This is the rest of the retina. If you see that there are so many layers are missing in the, so that the light rays won't be impeded into the foveal directly. It will goes to the cones, and it has a synapse with the directly the ganglion and the bipolar cell layers, and form the important. This is the OCT of the. This is the different color coding of the different of the retina. Then look at the peripheral retina. It is hardly have any cones in the peripheral retina. It has many rods in the, and the rods have also are shorter and wider than the central retina. But the receptive field of this peripheral is very large. There many rods are converging on a single ganglion cell. Then what is retinal detachment? Whenever you have a trauma or whenever you have a, it is called as regmatous retinal detachment, when you have the formation of the hole, or sometimes where you have the, in high myopes where you have the peripheral retinal degeneration, where lattice will lead to, sometimes will lead to the hole in the retina, will also lead to the traction. Whenever you have an injury to the eyeball, the fluid or the blood may collected between the neural retina and the retinal pigment epithelium. Whenever trauma causes the contraction of the fine collagen fibrils in the vitreous humor, this fibril will pull the retina towards the interior of the globe. The detached retina can resist for the only for few days. That is why you have to do the as soon as the early the retinal detachment surgery, then only you can get the regain the vision. Otherwise, you'll have the very bad prognosis whenever you have the retinal detachment. The diffusion occurs during the detachment. It is independent supply by the of the retinal artery. The early surgical will prevent the visual loss. This is the retinal tear where you have the subretinal fluid, the vitreous detachment. You can see in the, this is a regmatogenous type of retinal detachment. Then what are the refractive media? The refractive media, clear for the visual function, you must have a good refractive media, is a main prerequisite for the visual function of the eye. The major factor responsible for the transparency of the eye is the avascularity. What are the things which will form the refractive media? The first and foremost thing is the tear film. Then next is the cornea, aqueous humor, the crystalline lens, and the vitreous humor. These are the from the anterior to the posterior. They constitute the refractive media. The tear film. The tear film is secreted by the lacrimal apparatus. The lacrimal apparatus includes the lacrimal and the extralacrimal glands and the punctum and the lacrimal sac and the nasolacrimal duct. Together includes the lacrimal apparatus. They plays an important role in the formation and the drainage of these lacrimal glands. So what are the tears secreted in the eye? The lacrimal apparatus comprises the structure and the formation of the mainly lacrimal axon and the drainage, the puncta, the canaliculus, lacrimal sacs, and the nasolacrimal duct. So this is a lacrimal gland. From where this is the puncta, upper punctum, lower punctum, this is the canaliculus, and then this is the lacrimal sac, and it drains into the nasolacrimal duct. The tear film refers to the fluid covering the cornea and conjunctiva. The tear composes of the 98% of the water, and it contains the 1.5% of the. That is why the sodium chloride is responsible for the salty taste of the tears. It also contains the antibacterial substances like the lysozyme, beta-lysine, and the lactoferrin that plays an important role in prevention of the infections in the lacrimal. Suppose if you look at the tear film, it contains the 3 layers. The outermost is the lipid layer, which lubricates and it prevents the evaporation of the layer, and the next is followed by the aqueous layer. It provides the nourishment and protects the cornea, and the next is the mucin layer, which attaches to the corneal epithelium. This is the most important tear film. If suppose if you have any tear film disturbances, will lead to the old age, the dry eye. The functions of the tear film: it keeps the cornea and the conjunctiva moist, and it removes the out of the substances from that fall into the conjunctival sac and removes the foreign body materials by washing. Whenever you get the foreign body, will cause the lacrimation, and washing it causes the washing effect. And it provides the oxygen into the corneal epithelium. It washes away the debris and the noxious irritants. It prevents the infection due to the presence of the lysozyme enzymes and the lactoferrin. It prevents the antibacterial. It facilitates the movement of the lids over the globe. The next is structure, the lens. It is a transparent and biconvex crystalline structure. Its diameter is around 9 to 10 millimeters, and its thickness varies with the age. At birth, it is 3.5 millimeters, and it increases as the age increases. At the extreme age, thickness increases to the 5 millimeters. It is a capsule, anterior epithelium. This is the cortex, and these are the nuclei. The centermost is the embryonic, followed by the fetal, the infantile, and the adult nucleus. The lens capsule, suppose if you see, this is the lens capsule, then is the cortex. The third one is the, this is the sixth one is the embryonic, infantile, and the adult nucleus are formed. This is the, okay. The lens capsule, it is a thin, transparent hyaline membrane surrounding the lens. The anterior epithelium, it is a single layer of cuboidal cell which lies deep to the anterior capsule. And the lens fibers, these are formed by forms the main bulk of the lens and arranged compactly as a nucleus and the cortex of the lens. The nucleus is the center part containing the oldest fibers. The cortex is the peripheral part which comprises the youngest fibers. It contains lens attached to the ciliary body by the suspensory ligament, called as the zonules of the gin. It consists of a series of fibers which suspended by the ciliary body, and it plays an important role in accommodation of the eye. The transparency of the lens is maintained because of avascularity, and it's the arrangement of the lens, and it is auto-oxidation because of a high concentration of the reduced glutathione maintains the lens proteins at reduced stage and ensures the transparency. Depending upon its metabolism and chemical exchange, it depends on the aqueous humor for the metabolism. The nourishment of the lens is entirely dependent on the aqueous humor, and which is immersed and fluid regulated by semi-permeable capsule and the subcapsular epithelium. Whenever you have the opacities of the lens lead to the cataract, that is the first and foremost cause of the blindness in the world. This is the structure where you have see the lens layer and the cut section, the posterior chamber. Already we have discussed all these things in the earlier slides. Then we are going to look at the physical principles of the optics. Then what is the refractive index? The refractive index of a transparent medium is the ratio of the velocity of the light in the air to the ratio of the velocity in the substance. The refractive index of the glass is a 1.5, and whenever it enters in a denser medium, it decreases the velocity of the light transmission, and the wavelength also 2/3 that of the air. The total refractive power of the eye is and in a reduced rate is 59 diopters. The air refractive index is the 1. The cornea, it is a 1.38. Then the aqueous humor is 1.3, and the lens is the highest when compared to the cornea. First lens and followed by the cornea. Then the vitreous humor 1.34 and the aqueous humor 1.33. Then what is refraction? It is the bending of light whenever it interferes with the angular surface. It is called as the refraction. The degree of refraction depends upon the ratio of the two refractive index of the media and the degree of angulation between the two media that entering the wavefront. The refraction and the refractive index, just now we have seen the bending of light structure depends not only on the radius of curvature but also difference between the two adjoining media. The refraction of light at interface between the two media, will see whenever a light enters perpendicular to the smooth surface, it only causes the decrease in the gap wavelength and decreases the velocity of the light, and whenever it strikes, it causes the bending of the light, is called as the refraction. The application of the refractive principle in the lenses, when you see already these elementary optics, already you have well known in your earlier classes in the 12th standard and 11th standard or intermediate. The focal point, whenever the light rays converge to a parallel beam of an place a convex lens, it points to come to the at a distance of called as the focal length. It is called as the focal point. It is called as the converging lens. We'll go quickly. And whenever light rays enters the converging lens, half of the bending occurs when it rays enters the lens, and half of the whenever it exit to the opposite side. The lens exactly have the parallel rays passing directly, lens will bend exactly enough so that all the rays pass through a single point, is called as the focal point. The concave lens will cause the divergence. It is exactly opposite to that of the rays that entering the periphery will lead ahead of the rays when that entering, it won't deviate. And this is the opposite effect of the convex lens. It causes the peripheral ray to diverge and the ray passes through the center of the lens. Thus, the concave lens causes the diverging rays and convex lens causes the divergence. And another point regarding about the cylindrical lens, the cylindrical lens will cause the convergence into only one plane compared to the spherical lens. This is spherical lens. The cylindrical lens bends the light rays to two sides of the lens, but not from the top of the board. It forms a focal line. When it the cylindrical, when you see the spherical lens, it forms a focal point. This is the focal point. This is a focal line whenever you have the cylindrical lens. And conversely, light rays that passes through the spherical lens are refracted at all edges and towards the center. It is a focal point. And it is this focal point. The concave cylinder lenses diverge the light rays in only one plane, and the convex cylinders only converge in one plane. Suppose if you keep the two cylinders of the same power at right angles, it also acts like a lens, spherical lens. Whenever you place a two cylindrical lens cross at each other to form a same function as one spherical. Whenever you have a point focus, they forms the point line focus. Okay. the focal length of a lens, the distance between the convex lens at which the parallel light ray converges to a common focal point is called as the focal length. It is called as the focal length. When the light rays that are already diverging enters the convex lens, the distance of the focus on other side of the lens is farther from that of the focal length of the lens of the parallel rays. Suppose if you look at this diagram, these are the parallel rays, the focal point. Suppose if it is a point source of light, the focal point is the farther the compared to the parallel rays in this diagram, because this lens is having a more high power. The point this is the focal point. The formation of image by a convex lens. When a 2-point source of light come to a point focus on opposite side, it direct lines in with the point source of the center of the lens. These are the focal points. These are the point lights of sources. This is the whenever this is a formation of image by a convex lens, any object in front of a lens is in reality is a mosaic of the different point source of light. Each point source of light on the object comes to a separate point of focus on the opposite side of the each point focus forms a separate point focus on opposite side in a line with the lens center. The image will be, whenever formed with the convex lens, will be upside down in respect to the original object, and two lateral side of the image also reversed. Then we look at the refractive power of the lens. The refractive power of any lens is equal to the 1 meter divided by its focal length. The spherical lens that converts the parallel rays to a focal point of 1 meter behind the lens is having a refractive power of the 1 diopter. Suppose if you look at the convex lens, the convex is not the same as, and the convex lens diverges the light rays at the same rate that the 1-point diverger converges them. The convex lens is said to have a dioptric power of strength minus 1 diopter. It is the same with the cylindrical lens also. The converging in one plane and diverging in the one plane, it is called as the convex and the concave cylinders. The 1 diopter, this is the 2 diopters, the 10 diopters. This is the focal distance is the 1 meter. Here is the 0.5. It is a 10 centimeters only for the 10 diopters. The eye as a camera. Suppose as we look at the earlier convex lens, the eye optical equivalent to usually photographic camera. It has a lens system. In a reduced eye, the total dioptric power has a 59 diopters with a variable aperture. Here the pupil acts as a variable aperture and plays an important role in controlling the amount of light entering into the eye, and it prevents the spherical and the chromatic aberrations. The lens system of the eye composed of the 4 refractive interfaces. The first interface is between the air and the anterior surface of the cornea. The interface between the posterior surface of the cornea and the aqueous humor. The interface between the aqueous humor and the anterior surface of the lens, and the interface between the posterior surface of the lens and the vitreous humor. Suppose if you look at the reduced eye, the internal the refractive index of the air is 1, the cornea is a 1.38, the aqueous humor is a 1.3, the crystalline lens on average is a 1.4, and the vitreous humor is a 1.34. The refractive surface of all these algebraically added together and considered as a single lens, the optics of the normal eye may be simplified and represented schematically as a reduced eye. The reduced eye concept is first introduced by the Lister, the famous scientist who has invented even the Lister perimeter you have also, and followed by the Donder. Nowadays, the gold standard is another one is followed as the most commonly used reduced eye for the simple calculation. This is the diagram of the reduced eye. This is a schematic eye where you have the 2 surfaces, and the reduced eye is used for the simple calculation where you have the only single diopter, where you have the point of focus on 17 nodal, having a nodal point 17 mm from the retina. The reduced eye is the single refractive surface considered to exit. It have a central point 17 millimeters. It is a central point, the nodal point 17 mm from the front of the retina, and the total refractive power of this reduced eye is 59 diopters. when the lens is accommodated for the distant vision. The total refractive power reduced is 59 diopters. The cornea provides the 40 diopters. The lens provides the 19 diopters. Suppose if you look at the formation of the image on the retina, the image is usually inverted and reversed with respect to object. However, the mind perceives the object in the upright position despite of the upside and the reversed position, because of the brain trained in considering the inverted image as a normal. This is how the image will be, how they will focus on the retina, optic nerve through brain, it will picture, you see, perceive as, even it is the same picture in the TV where the signal cable, the beam monitoring is also similar to that of a eye. Then, okay, we'll go into the refractions, errors of refractions. Before going to the errors of refraction, we first mention about the accommodation. Accommodation is also, and errors of refractions also very important as in exam point of view and viva and even the clinical examinations also. The accommodation is it is the ability of eye to keep the image focused on the retina as the distance between the eye and the object varies. Because whenever you are focusing the for the near and distant object, this is how suppose if you are focusing for the near object, the far object will become, suppose if you are focusing for the far object, near object will be blurred by the ciliary body contraction. It plays an important, suspensory ligament, it plays an important accommodation. The accommodation results from the contraction of the ciliary muscles, which is like a sphincter muscle. Under resting state, the ciliary muscle relax and keep the aperture wide, and the relaxation of ciliary muscle apply the tension of the suspensory ligament, which pulls the lens taut. Whenever viewing a object at a distance of 20 meters or more from a normal, the image focuses on the retina and the lens becomes more flat, and it is a least convex. Whenever you are seeing a distant object, the lens is more flat and least convex. Suppose if the object moves closer, the muscles of the ciliary body contracts and narrows the aperture of the ciliary bodies and reduces the tension on the zonular fibers and the suspending, and the lens acquires more convex. When the tension reduces, the lens becomes more rounded and more convex, resulting to of its inherent elasticity. The change in the shape of the lens is excuse me. Change the shape of the lens is permits the accommodation. The ciliary muscle is controlled almost entirely by the parasympathetic nerve signals that are transmitted to the eye through the third cranial, the oculomotor nerve. From the brainstem. This is the picture where when you see the distant object, this is the lens is flattened, and whenever you see the near object, the lens is the ligaments will be rise and cause the and leads to the more increase in the curvature of the lens, and it becomes the more convex. This is the, we'll look at into the different refractive errors of the error. The emmetropia is the normal, it light focus on the hypermetropia is also called as farsightedness. Light focus behind the retina, it is corrected with the convex lens. The myopia, the nearsightedness, light focus in front of the retina, it is corrected with the biconcave lens. The astigmatism, the curvature of the lens is not uniform. It is corrected by the cylindrical lenses. The presbyopia is resulted from the loss of accommodation as with the aging. The near point is the closest point on which one can focus on by accommodation lens. Moves farther from the eye, it is corrected with the convex lens in the presbyopia. These are the different types of refractors. The emmetropia, it is directly focused on the retina. The farsightedness, where in hypermetropia, where you have the eyeball is a small r because of the ineffective power of the lens of the accommodation, where you will have the one. Another is the nearsightedness, is also called as myopia, where you have the strong contraction of the lenses, where you have the height or the increase in the size of the globe will causes the myopia. The emetropia, normal vision, the eye is considered normal or emetropy if the parallel light from a distant objects are for focus on the retina when the ciliary muscle is completely relaxed. It is called as a emetropia. The emetropy can see all the objects clearly with the ciliary muscles. Suppose if you want to see the objects close range, the eye must contract the ciliary muscles and accommodate for the near reflex. The hypermetropia is also called the farsightedness. The parallel light of rays are not bent sufficiently by the relaxed lens system to focus by the timely by the reach the retina. This is due to the too short eyeball or the lens system is the weak. This can be overcome by increasing the more contraction of the ciliary muscle and causes the accommodation and causes the seeing the distant objects. And you look at the myopia is also called as nearsightedness, where the ciliary muscle is complete. The light rays comes into form a focus in front of the retina. Here the lens system is stronger, but we don't have a system in our eye where you can decrease the refractive power of the eye. That is why you cannot focus the distant object. This condition usually due to the long eyeball or to having a more increase in the refractive power. In the old days where you see the increase in the refractive index of the lens, we also call it the secondary cataracts, where you second sightedness, where we have increase in the refractive index also produce the myopia, where you can easily see the after presbyopia because of the nuclear sclerosis. They thought that the presbyopia is gone and induce the myopia. They will suffer from the distant vision. The vision is corrected whenever you have a myopia. By concave lens we can correct the myopia. Hypermetropia will connect with the convex lens. This is how you can correct the different refractive errors. The normal and the connected with the hypermetropia corrected with the hyperopia, with the convex lens, myopia corrected with the biconcave lens. Then another is the astigmatism. It is a visual image. Okay, sorry for the interruption. We'll continue with the few more slides. The astigmatism. It is a visual image is formed focused at a different distance from that of a plane in right angles. The astigmatism most often results from the two greater curvature of the cornea in one plane of the eye, where you see one is focusing at a different plane, one is focusing at a different plane. This astigmatism is corrected by the cylindrical lenses. The presbyopia is the ability of lens change as the shape decreases with the age. The power of accommodation decreases about 14 diopters in child to less than 2 diopters by reach the age of 45 to 50 days. It becomes essentially 0 diopters at the age of 70. The lens remains almost non-accommodative. Its condition is called as the presbyopia. The presbyopia is corrected with the convex lenses with the bifocals, where you can collect this. Okay, thank you. Wish you all the best. Okay.